My husband knew I was cheating, but he never said a word. They say secrets have a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply you bury them. I used to think I was the exception, that if I was careful enough, discreet enough, my sins would remain hidden beneath the surface of my perfect life. But the truth has a way of whispering through the cracks, waiting for the moment you least expect it to shatter everything you thought was safe. I always believed that secrets, if buried deep enough, would stay hidden forever. I was wrong. It started with a feeling, an ache, a void in my marriage that I could neither name nor ignore. It crept in slowly, like a shadow stretching across the floor at dusk, something I noticed but chose to dismiss. David, my husband, was a good man, steady, reliable. He never forgot an anniversary, always made sure my car had gas, and held my hand when we crossed the street. But his predictability became suffocating over the years. The safety I once cherished felt like a cage, each bar built from the monotony of routine. Our conversations were mechanical, as if we were reading from a script neither of us remembered writing. Our intimacy was routine, a scheduled act devoid of passion. Somewhere along the way, we had stopped seeing each other, moving through life as polite strangers rather than lovers. And that realization sat heavy on my chest, a silent grief neither of us dared to speak aloud. Then there was him, Adam. It wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. But what began as harmless flirtation, stolen glances across the office, a lingering touch, a laugh that lasted a second too long, became something darker, something uncontrollable. The first time I crossed the line, it was in a dimly lit hotel room 2 cities away from home. My hands trembled as I fumbled with the keycard, my heart pounding in my chest, every fibre of my being screaming that this was wrong. But then Adam's hands were on me, hungry, possessive, pulling me against him as if I were something precious, something worth breaking the rules for. "You sure about this?" he murmured, his lips ghosting over my ear, his breath hot against my skin. I should have said no. I should have walked away. Instead, I grabbed him by the collar and pulled him into me. The guilt came later, but in that moment, there was only pleasure, raw, desperate, intoxicating. The way he whispered my name like a prayer, the way his hands explored me like I was something to be worshipped, not just tolerated. I had forgotten what that felt like. One night turned into another, and then another. Each time I told myself it would be the last, but the ache inside me didn't fade. It only grew stronger, more insatiable. And somewhere along the way, I stopped caring about the consequences. I thought I was careful, thought I covered my tracks. But David knew. At first, I didn't notice. He still kissed me goodbye every morning. He still asked me about my day. But something was different. He stopped looking me in the eye. His touch felt distant, hollow, as if he were afraid to hold on too tightly. Then came the silence. A deafening, suffocating silence that stretched between us like a vast ocean. I would come home late, my excuses rehearsed, but he never questioned me, never accused me. Instead, he would just watch, not with anger, not with betrayal, but something far worse, understanding, as if he had already accepted the truth long before I had even admitted it to myself. One evening, I came home to find him sitting at the dining table, a glass of bourbon in hand. His eyes followed me as I set down my purse, my heart hammering in my chest. "Long day?" he asked, his voice even, unreadable. "Yes," I answered too quickly. Meetings ran late. A pause, a slow sip of his drink, then a small, almost imperceptible nod. He knew. But he wasn't going to stop me. He wasn't going to fight for me. He wasn't going to rage or demand answers. He was just going to let it happen. And that realization was more terrifying than any confrontation could ever be. For weeks, I lived in that unbearable tension. I stopped checking my phone obsessively, stopped sneaking around like a criminal. The thrill that had once set my skin on fire now felt cold and lifeless. One night, as I lay beside him in bed, staring at the ceiling, I finally whispered, "Why don't you say something?" I felt him shift beside me, his breath steady. Then, after a long moment, he said, "Would it change anything?" I turned to look at him, searching for anger, for pain, for anything that would give me a reason to fall apart. But there was only exhaustion, a quiet kind of heartbreak that made my chest ache. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. The affair continued, but it wasn't the same. Adam noticed. He asked what was wrong, why I seemed distant, and for the first time, I wondered what I was even chasing. Then, one evening, David placed an envelope on the kitchen counter and walked away. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Inside was a single piece of paper. A bank statement, a down payment on an apartment. He was leaving me. Not with fury, not with accusations, just quiet resignation. I stood in that kitchen, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps, as I realized something that shattered me more than guilt ever could. David hadn't just known. He had been waiting for me to choose him. And I never did. I had spent so much time searching for something outside of my marriage that I had never turned around to see if there was something worth saving. And now, it was too late. The next morning, he was gone. I called out his name, my voice cracking with desperation, my heart pounding in my chest as I ran through the house. "David?" My breath hitched, a sob clawing at my throat. I checked the bedroom, the closet, the bathroom, each empty space swallowing me whole. My hands trembled as I gripped the doorframe, my legs threatening to give out beneath me. The silence that followed was deafening. David had finally let me go. I sank to the floor, tears spilling down my cheeks, my chest heaving with regret so heavy it felt like it would crush me. My marriage hadn't been perfect, but I had been loved. Truly, deeply, unconditionally loved. And I had thrown it away for fleeting passion, for something that, in the end, had meant nothing. I had spent so much time looking for excitement, for fire, that I hadn't realized I had already been holding something irreplaceable. David had been my home, and now I had lost him. Not because he left, but because I had pushed him away. And for the first time, I realized that I wasn't free. I was alone.
With this story or found it thought-provoking, please take a moment to like and subscribe for more content that dives deep into the complexities of human emotions. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us continue bringing stories that resonate with real-life experiences. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. How would you have handled this situation? Let's start a conversation about love, trust, and redemption.